There is a place in northwestern Europe, a land shaped by culture and tradition, where beer serves as the very lifeblood of the people, flowing into every aspect of life, refreshing, robust. What wine is to the south, beer is to the north. And nowhere is this more evident than here, in the Mecca for beer lovers, Belgium. Bordered by Germany, France, and the Netherlands, Belgium is a country steeped in tradition and blessed with a cultural diversity unique on the continent, if not the world. It's everywhere you look, from the classical architecture to the variety of their cuisine. And then there's the beer, which truly reflects the diversity. There are so many different types to choose from. Over 500 different varieties made by 110 breweries countrywide. Beer lovers from around the world travel here to visit the breweries, enjoy the cuisine, and experience the vast number of styles of beer available. You have fruit beers, beers as an aperitif, beers with your main course, beers for dessert, and again, beers for simple conversation. That's why Belgium's known as the beer paradise. The Belgian preoccupation with beer can be traced to, of all things, religion. Although there was always some kind of brewing throughout recorded history, the first full-scale production of beer began in the Christian monasteries during the Middle Ages. Now, as the legend goes, an 11th century monk named Arnold had halted the spread of the plague in the villages around Oudenburg Abbey by persuading the people to drink a brew of fermented barley and hops in place of the local contaminated water. The effect was miraculous. Father Arnold became Saint Arnold, the patron saint of brewers in Belgium, and beer took on a sacred aspect as a gift from God. Although beer production at Christian abbeys is pretty much a thing of the past, today what we know as abbey beer is actually produced under license by commercial brewers using original recipes and methods. But there are still some abbeys in Belgium that brew beer on premise using the profits to support charitable and missionary work. These are called Trappist beers. Now this is something I wanted to see. Beer still being made by members of the original order. The Trappist Abbey of Scourmont at Chimay, which houses a strict sect of Cistercian monks, is one of only 6 abbeys like it in the world, 5 of which are in Belgium. The relationship between monks and beer dates back for centuries. Back then, the water wasn't safe to drink, so beer provided a safe beverage. Also, during the Lent period, the monks would fast. They couldn't eat, but they could drink beer. And they brewed a stronger beer, a stronger flavored beer, full of vitamins and nutrients that helped sustain their diet during that time. Lucky for us, a style of beer that's still available today. Having taken vows of poverty, the monks devote their lives to prayer and study and performed labor in the fields. Their discipline is absolute, and they apply the same principle of continuous striving to the brewing of their beer. And so I really wasn't expecting to see this. A state-of-the-art facility using the most modern scientific methods. Everything automated, with an output capacity of 100,000 bottles a day. The beer made here at Scourmont Abbey, labeled Chimay, is the most widely recognized Trappist beer in the world. The result of over 150 years of perfecting their craft. The breakthrough in modern time came in 1949, when Father Theodore made a pure culture of yeast.
Ça veut dire que de la levure, à l'état sauvage, il entraîne partout sur les fruits, sur les animaux, etc. Alors mon long travail de patience a été d'isoler les cellules de levure. Et finalement, lorsque j'ai trouvé une souche qui était bonne, celle-là, j'ai continué à la propager d'une manière tout à fait sélective et isolée.
The making of beer requires 3 basic ingredients: water, malted barley, and yeast. Malted barley is milled into a flour, and then it's mixed with water in a vessel called a mash tub. When heated, the starch in the malt mash converts into sugar. Then the liquid is filtered through its own grain bed, the result of which is called wort. The wort is then boiled, and at this stage, the hops are added. An essential ingredient, the hops impart the bitter, aromatic characteristic of beer. After the wort is separated from the hop residue, it is placed in the fermentation vat. This is where the magic occurs. The wort, mostly a sugar solution, has yeast added to it. The yeast multiplies and consumes the sugar in the wort, converting it to alcohol and carbon dioxide. After 3 to 4 days of fermentation, the beer is ready for bottling. With Chimay beers, yeast and sugar are added just before bottling, so another fermentation process will occur in the bottle afterwards. Chimay beers are tested rigorously to maintain quality control of the brand. Father, it's very nice of you to welcome us here today.
Good morning, Michael.
Father Fernand kindly offered to host a tasting of the Abbey's fine beer. Naturally, I agreed. Chimay makes 3 types of beer. The triple is the most recent. Blonde in appearance, it has a hop and fruity taste, perfect as an aperitif. The oldest is the Chimay Rouge. It has a velvety sweet taste and a hint of refreshing bitterness on the palate. The Chimay Blue Grand Reserve, the strongest with 9% alcohol, exhibits an unbelievable depth of fruity, peppery character and is often cited by critics as one of the best beers in the world. Much fuller flavored, almost a coffee-like aroma. I think this would be nice to sit back on a nice evening by the fire and just to relax and for good conversation. Well suited for that.
You think Canadians will appreciate that type of beer?
I think so. Our climate is well suited for strong, full-flavored beers.
Long evenings,
Absolutely.
Long winter evenings, yeah.
That's right. The brewery of Chimay, 150 years later, is still producing some of the very best and most complex ales available. The city of Bruges is often referred to as the Venice of the North. And like everywhere in Belgium, the boulevards, laneways are jam-packed with cafes, restaurants, and pubs, servicing a public that considers going out to eat and drink a daily ritual. If you were to wander onto a particular street, you might discover a certain legendary pub that has drawn beer lovers from all around the world. Here they serve over 300 different types of Belgian beer, each and every one with its own particular glass designed to accent the beer within. That might seem a bit extreme to us, but not here in Belgium.
Every beer deserves his own glass and has designed his own glass for it, so we would not serve a beer when there was not a glass available for it.
Daisy Clazy owns the Tibrugs Bertje with her husband Jan, an oasis for discriminating beer enthusiasts from around the world.
The passion of beer freaks is to find the unique, rare brews of very small microbreweries. The customers do love variety very much.
Variety? It would take a year just to try all of these beers on the menu. And unfortunately, I only have a week. Did you know that 70% of Belgians drink Pilsner-style lagers? First brewed in Czechoslovakia, it's become one of the world's most popular styles of beer. This golden blonde, low-yeast lager is made with mineral-free water and heavily hopped. It's a favorite of the students in the town of Louvain in central Belgium. The city boasts one of the oldest universities in the world. It comes complete with a large student population. Support from the students of Louvain has contributed substantially to the success of Stella Artois. The signature beer of Interbrew, the largest brewer in Belgium and the second largest in the world. There has been a brewery on this site since 1366. Totally automated, the brewing process is controlled by only 4 people and produces 10 million bottles a day. Stella Artois malts all its own grains for brewing. The barley is first taken from ships, then soaked in large vats to start germination. Bill White of Interbrew, a brewer himself, accompanied me through the malting house and explained the process.
What is malting? Malting is a natural process where you take grain, you get it wet, and you start it to grow. So at this stage of the process, actually, we soak it in water, and that turns on the key of life. And then we pump oxygen through because the plant needs oxygen to grow. It'll soak in here for about 3 days, and the roots will just be beginning to poke out of the end of the grain, and at that point, it's ready to go down to the germination beds.
This might be the most impressive floor malting facility in the world. At over 200 meters long, these soaked barley beds are laid out at 4-inch depths, while huge sifting machines gently toss the grains to aerate and cool them down.
Well, Michael, you can see how natural the process is. The malting process is really just the growth of seeds. You can see the roots are almost as long as the grain. When the plant grows about 3/4, all the changes inside the malt kernel have taken place. So you've changed from insoluble starch to soluble starch, and then that's what the brewer wants.
After 5 days, the growth process must be halted, which is done in a large kiln.
It's hot in here, Bill. Boy, is it hot. It's about 30 degrees here, but the lower level goes to 50, and in the third level down, it's up to about 110.
That's Celsius.
That's Celsius.
Oh,
it's
man.
hot.
Stella Artois uses a light-colored malt to create its golden blonde beer. The use of roasted malts make a darker or stronger flavored beer. Then there are those beers which use unmalted wheat. These are called wit beers or white beers, the name deriving from the cloudy appearance in the glass due to the yeast within. And Hoegaarden is the original wit beer. Named after the town it's made in, Hoegaarden has a brewing tradition going back hundreds of years, and just as old as the local Brewers Guild. The guilds flourished from the 11th to 16th century, and it still guards the traditions of quality and taste within the Hoegaarden brewery today. I was invited to become an honorary member and accepted with pleasure.
I present you a beer from Hoegaarden.
Thank you very much.
For the members, only for the members. This way.
Special way?
Special way, special way. You see? Up, the little finger. Don't forget that.
No.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Three times it's possible.
3 times is
Three times is good, yes. With our ladies, all your 3 kisses. Only 3, please. Yes, thank you.
This very contemporary and popular style of beer was almost lost forever in 1957, when the last brewery to make it closed its doors. But 10 years after, a milkman named Peter Cellist, fondly recalling the beer of his youth, took a chance on the revival of white beer and saved the Hoegaarden name. Lucky for us today, white beers are enjoyed all over the world. The Hoegaarden brand has developed its own niche and market. I met with Eddie Vanderhagen of Hoegaarden to find out more about what makes this beer unique.
Why do you use wheat?
The reason for that is that we are looking for a very refreshing taste, and this refreshing taste is coming out of this wheat. We are also looking for a kind of a citrus taste. For that purpose, we are adding the orange peels. Apart from these orange peels, we are also using coriander seeds.
Now, coriander will also add a citrus element to it?
Yes, yeah.
It makes for a very interesting flavor.
Just before bottling, supplementary sugar and yeast are added to produce a second fermentation in the bottle. The bottle is shaken in mid-pour in order to distribute the yeast evenly in the glass.
Then the beer is finished and is ready to go to the consumer. Most of the cloudiness is coming out of the wheat.
It's very refreshing. You get those citrus characters from the coriander and the orange peel. It really comes through.
That's right.
Antwerp, Belgium's ancient city. It's renowned for its art treasures, fine food, and chocolate. The people of Antwerp tend to use their cafes and bars as their living rooms, celebrating every day and occasion with great food and, of course, a beer or two. In Belgium, they take their beer seriously, and they're particular about every aspect of it, even how they pour it. This one comes with a 3-inch head. It may seem unusual to you, but as I've discovered, there's a reason for everything. Pouring a thick head of beer releases the carbon dioxide within, which makes the beer lighter and less filling. All bartenders receive mandatory training for certification in order to serve beer. And in Belgium, they take this seriously. Once a year, the International Draft Masters competition is held in Brussels to recognize and award excellence in beer service. This year's world champion is Chris Adriaanson, a Belgian bartender from the Den Bottle Café just outside of Antwerp. Just watching him pour is an experience in itself. Here, he maximizes the foam while pouring in the glass and cuts off the unwanted head containing large bubbles of gas. Then, when serving from the bottle, he removes the cap, taking special care not to touch the bottle. And while pouring, again without letting the bottle touch the glass, his pour must be even and consistent to create the optimum head of foam.
Have a good foam on it.
Now the real trick in attaining the perfect pour is in the hand washing of the glass to virtually eradicate any trace of grease.
And normally glass
If improperly washed, a seemingly clean glass could reduce the size of the foamy head and thus the quality of the beer.
So, which one do you want?
I'm going to have this one.
Cheers.
There's something of a mystery in the air in a 30-mile area to the west of Brussels. Something unexplained, but still necessary to the brewing of a special style of beer. Farmers here in the Zen Valley region discovered it hundreds of years ago, when the homemade beer they were brewing fermented on its own, without adding any yeast whatsoever. Today, this style of beer is called lambic. At the turn of the century, Philip van der Stok, a coupière or blender, bought a small lambic café called the Bellevue, and later opened a brewery under the same name. Today their products are sold around the world. Lambic, as perhaps the oldest surviving style of beer, is definitely in its own category. And so I wanted to learn what makes lambic different. Jean-Paul Vasse of Bellevue provided the tour and the insight.
Anxious to see it?
I am.
Naturally, it begins with the ingredients. They use 64% barley malt with 36% unmalted wheat. But here, aged hops are used, not so much for their flavor, but for their preservative qualities.
The tannins are going to act as bactericides to help to protect our brew during the aging processes. As you can see,
What really surprised me was the cooling room, with its large vat. Exposed to the outside air from the ceiling's central cavity, the room is designed to accommodate as much airflow from the outside as possible, allowing wild microbes to create a spontaneous fermentation. Only in this region can lambic beer be made successfully.
what other brewers are afraid of, we are looking for it. They don't want to have here those wild yeast and bacteria. We just need them to have the specificities of our wonderful beer.
Bellevue's cellars are filled with row upon row of old wooden casks. After the spontaneous fermentation begins, the young lambics are placed in these casks for at least 6 months and anywhere up to 6 years.
We use old port barrels because they give all the finishing touches, tastes, smells, perfumes.
It's the long fermentation that gives lambic beer its fine character. Lambic, placed in small casks or in barrels as large as 7,000 liters, all ferment slowly and spontaneously, and each one with its own unique flavor. All lambics must be blended before the final product. And so it's the blender's craft to know which combination will make the best lambic beer. Young and old lambics are blended to make something called gueuze. Belgium makes a quality gueuze from their best lambics. They are bottle conditioned, meaning yeast is added so that they may ferment in the bottle.
So you can age it 2, 3, 4 years. It's just like champagne.
It even has a vintage.
It even has a vintage, indeed. You want to taste one?
One of Bellevue's specialties is the popular Kriek beer, a combination of lambic and whole sour cherries. It takes up to 3 years to mature in these barrels before it's ready to market.
Smell the cherry flavor?
The cherry flavors are even starting to come through on the palate, but it's very dry.
It's dry, but it's already fruity. And a little bit of sherry, port. All these esters and flavors are going to sweeten, and then, well, you have a fantastic Kriek.
There's a little bit of an Art Deco feel to the Mort Subite bar in Brussels. Opened right in the heart of the period, the name came from a dice game called Mort Subite, or Sudden Death, where the loser paid the evening's tab. The bar became Mort Subite and remains so today, selling lambic under the same name. Located just outside of Brussels, the Mort Subite brewery has been in the de Keysmaker family for over 250 years. And today holds a significant market share in Belgium for its Kriek and gueuze. Like most of Belgium's breweries, Mort Subite combines modern production techniques and facilities with traditional methods and values. Philip de Keysmaker stays true to a long family tradition of quality and craftsmanship in his product. With little hesitation, I accepted his offer to try some of the cellar's fine lambic. As always, the fermentation process is what will determine the quality. The yeast microbes inside the barrel move through a gradual transformation while maturing, slowly absorbing all those fine flavors from these oak barrels. When mature, this old lambic will be combined with the younger lambic to create the gueuze.
You have to compare it with white wine.
Exactly.
It is more as white wine.
Today, Mort Subite produces a wide variety of quality lambic beers. There's Kriek, Framboise, Pêche, Cassis, and gueuze. Much of Belgium beer's industry seems to stem from individuals, survivors, and revivalists. Today, Belgian beer is a very large and vibrant business that serves to remind us that there are whole other worlds to explore, and not only in relation to beer. For the beer lover, Belgium is paradise. From light, refreshing pills to spicy, thirst-quenching wheat beers, to lambics and all their variations, Framboise, Kriek, Pêche, gueuze, young and old, to the beers of the Abbeys and the Trappist. They're not just high alcoholic beers, they're rich, balanced, and flavorful. Belgium certainly offers a beer for all seasons. We hope you enjoyed our look at Belgian beer, and would like to hear your comments and ideas for future segments. Our email address is discover@lcbo.com.